So, along with the other factors of obesity, there is a hidden factor which a lot of people don't know about it, and that's the gut microbiome. So there are several studies which have been done on that, and a lot of times it's not under our control. We have a gastroenterologist here who is going to talk more about it. And I'm going to welcome Dr. Sumana Singh. She's a gastroenterologist here in Atlanta. She's going to talk a lot more about it. Sumana, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Nandini, for having me on your show. I am Dr. Sumana Mule, and I'm a gastroenterologist in the Atlanta suburbs in the Johns Creek, Suwannee area. And my practice is Mira's Gastroenterology and Gut Health. We do focus a little bit on the gut health aspect and preventative aspect of gastroenterology as well, along with general GI. Yeah,
Suman,
glad to be.
yeah, there is a lot of discussion about microbiome and obesity. Can you tell us a little bit about what is this microbiome and in general?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a great topic, Nandini. I think that relates to both of our practices and it brings it. I mean, there's so much interaction between our body weight, our health, and the microbiome. So, microbiome is basically the ecosystem of living organisms within our gut. When I say gut, mostly the large intestine or the colon, the small intestine, not so much bacteria, and it's not just bacteria, but it's a combination of bacteria, virus, and fungi, all of which exist in a homeostasis and interact with the gut and thereby influence several things like inflammation, autoimmune processes, and depending on what species is in the gut, our body might react differently and thereby having secondary consequences, including weight gain.
Right, yeah, that's a good perspective. And definitely, if you have more good bacteria in your gut, then you'll be more healthier. And if you have more bad bacteria in your gut, you will be unhealthy. And Sumana, tell us a little bit about like how this microbiome can impact the obesity or making you gain weight.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take a step back and just talk a little bit about obesity and why it's so important in today's world. It's a global pandemic. It's present everywhere in the world, and it's the World Health Organization's data shows that it's more than tripled in the last 75 years. Basically, the definition, as many of your clients know, and most of us know, is BMI or body mass index more than 25 is considered overweight, and more than 30 is considered obese. And there are several causative factors for this is urbanization, processed foods, calorie dense foods, decreased physical activity. Amongst these factors, the gut microbiome is like an emerging factor that may be causative as well, and a crucial factor. And the gut microbiome seems to be directly influenced by dietary factors. So there have been studies that show in both in humans and then mostly a lot in mice, of course, that show there is a certain kind of bacteria that exist in obese individuals and certain different kind of bacteria that exist in lean individual gut ecosystem. For example, lactobacillus and firmicutes are beneficial bacteria in lean individuals, and the obese individual guts have more of Bacteroidetes and Proteobacteria species. When we see these increased species, there's further studies that have shown that these bacteria interact by, and then what they do is basically increase energy extraction from the foods that we eat, like non-digestible carbohydrates. Say, for example, that we've eaten non-digestible carbohydrates, and those are supposed to be non-digestible and excreted that way. But when there is increased bacteria, these bad bacteria, they can digest them and absorb the energy from them and help deposit it as fat in the body, which is not present in lean individuals. So it increases energy extraction and increases lipid profile as well, the presence of these bad bacteria.
Yeah, that's really good insight. And most of us we don't know about this. And can you tell me what lifestyle changes can people do to help them build this good bacteria in their gut, which can
Yeah.
help them in the long run?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, some of the factors that help improve the good bacteria that we could do, one is directly influenced by dietary factors. And again, there are studies shown that more diets leaning towards the Mediterranean diet, which we kind of already know it's a healthy diet, but now there is evidence that what's present in a Mediterranean diet influences the good bacteria, the growth of good bacteria. So, those are olive oil, nuts, moderate intake of poultry, low intake of red meat, low intake of alcohol, and increased hydration. All of these, and then whole grains increase the good gut bacteria. Whereas consumption of processed foods and high sugary, fatty foods and refined starches, those would increase the bad bacteria and thereby increased energy extraction. So it sets a cycle of developing the bad bacteria. Now everything we eat, it's all the energy is extracted and deposited in the body as fat. So the dietary factors are important in trying to stay towards more towards the Mediterranean diet. If you want to remember it more simply, that would help, yeah, grow the good bacteria.
Right, more eating more whole foods,
Yes.
vegetables, and cutting back on this processed food, and cutting back on the red meat,
Y-
and cutting back on like all the bad stuff, like all the boxed food and stuff, like can help you build the bacteria. And tell me a little bit about how stress can impact this gut bacteria.
Yeah, stress can basically increases cortisol, and those again is one of the factors that pushes us to develop the bad bacteria or bifidobacterium, and those will increase again, go around the same vicious cycle of increasing energy extraction, causing inflammation, and also in this case increasing what is commonly called as leaky gut or increasing gut permeability, and thereby there could be that leads to inflammation and potentially metabolic diseases, or possibly even autoimmune conditions. So that's how stress influences it, by increasing intestinal permeability.
Yeah,
And yeah, there is some hope, some avenues though that are promising, which is probiotics and prebiotics. Prebiotics are basically non absorbable carbohydrates, the high in inulin and oligosaccharides, which are basically fiber that helps one grow their own good bacteria. Whereas probiotics are basically the good bacteria that comes in a capsule you would take, and then that helps establish if something is missing, these good bacteria will replenish what's missing in that ecosystem.
right. Yeah, you get like natural probiotics from yogurt, bananas, eating a lot of like fruits and
Yeah.
vegetables and greens. Eat a lot
Yes,
of like eating more natural foods, you get a lot of good bacteria in your gut. And
absolutely. And fermented foods too. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's all very good information because we only like when we talk about obesity, we only talk about diet, exercise, and sleep. But this is a hidden factor which can make people obese, and this is one of the biggest reasons why you want to eat healthy. And
Right.
yeah, thank you so much, Sumana, for sharing such a good information with us. And
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Let me ask you a question. And in your practice, are you seeing, are you beginning to consider probiotics? Is there any just bedside experience in that factor? I see a few studies showing maybe potentially the beneficial effect of probiotics, but yet it is not a standard treatment strategy.
Right.
And something interesting, of course, we need future studies to give us more therapeutic
Yeah,
options. But I
yeah,
was just curious
definitely.
if that's already something. Um,
Right.
you're doing or considering?
So definitely not probiotics as such, but like we tell them, like whenever they come for obesity, we definitely tell them to eat more whole foods,
Mm-hmm.
so which have more of those natural probiotics.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we are doing right now. But maybe that's going to be a future of treatment of obesity. But we have to wait and see how it goes.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. So
Yeah.
that's the hope. So future studies, there's several clinical trials enrolled in through clinicaltrials.gov. When you look on there about microbiome and interventions and what the results would be on
Right.
obesity, metabolic disorders like diabetes and such. So very curious and looking forward to see what the results
Yeah,
would be
yeah,
there. Yeah.
definitely. This is an emerging field, and thank you so much for sharing such a wealthy information. And I'm with this, I'm gonna end this video. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Stalio Health MD. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at staliohealthmd@gmail.com. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. It was a pleasure.